Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Have you ever looked closely at a 1980 penny? It's one of those coins that feels like it's always been around, quietly slipping through your hands in everyday change. But if you pause for a moment, you'll realize there's a whole world of history, design, and sometimes even mystery packed into that small copper disc. The 1980 Lincoln penny is not just a piece of metal, it's part of a long tradition, a coin that connects us to decades of American history and to collectors who still scour rolls and jars looking for special pieces. Now, most people will say, "It's just a penny, it's worth 1 cent." But the truth is far more interesting. Because while most 1980 pennies are worth their face value or maybe a little more for their copper, certain conditions, errors, and grades can push the value into surprising territory, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And that story starts with understanding exactly what this coin is. The penny of 1980 is officially known as the Lincoln Memorial Cent. The front side, the obverse, features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had already been on the penny for more than 70 years by 1980, having first appeared in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Brenner's design was a dramatic departure from earlier coinage because it was the first time a U.S. coin featured a real historical figure instead of a symbolic representation of liberty. Over the years, that image of Lincoln has been refined slightly, but in 1980 it remained close to Brenner's original vision. His initials, VB, are found subtly on the bust, a detail many collectors look for, especially on earlier coins. Flip the coin over and you'll see the reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial, which had been in place since 1959. This was created by Frank Gasparo, who was then the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. It replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse and was intended to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The memorial design shows the actual Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., complete with tiny details so fine that, with magnification, you can see a small representation of the statue of Lincoln sitting between the columns. Above the memorial are the words, "United States of America," and the Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," which means, "Out of many, one." Below the building is the denomination, 1 cent. As for its composition, the 1980 penny was made from an alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, which collectors often call bronze, though technically it's a copper alloy. This was the standard composition for U.S. cents from 1962 until mid-1982, when rising copper prices forced the mint to change to a copper-plated zinc coin weighing less. The weight of the 1980 penny is 3.11 grams, give or take a small amount for minting tolerances. It measures 19 millimeters in diameter and has a plain edge with no reading. The color of a freshly minted coin is a bright reddish copper, which over time can tone to a darker red, red-brown, or even chocolate brown depending on exposure and storage. In terms of mint marks, the 1980 penny came from 3 mints. The Philadelphia Mint produced the majority of coins, and those have no mint mark at all. Denver coins carry a small D mint mark beneath the date, and San Francisco produced proof coins with an S mint mark, which were sold in proof sets to collectors. The mintage numbers are staggering: over 7 billion from Philadelphia, more than 5 billion from Denver, and just over 3.5 million proof coins from San Francisco. With numbers like these, it's no surprise that the 1980 penny is considered common in circulation. But common doesn't mean uninteresting. Because of the high mintage, most examples will have contact marks, scratches, and wear from circulation. These are worth face value or perhaps a little more if copper prices make melting them profitable. But pristine examples, especially coins that have never been in circulation and still have their full red luster, can be valuable to collectors. A standard uncirculated 1980 penny in mint state 63 might be worth $1 or $2. In higher grades like MS65, they can bring $10 to $15, and at the very top end, in superb gem condition, the prices rise steeply. Coins graded MS67 or higher are rare and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, because so few coins survive in such perfect condition given how they were struck and handled. And then there are errors. Minting mistakes are where ordinary coins can turn into extraordinary finds. While there's no widely recognized major double die for 1980 like the famous 1955 or 1969s, there are still minor varieties and striking errors that can be worth money. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets can all increase a coin's value depending on severity and eye appeal. Some coins show doubling in the date or lettering, which can be subtle but collectible. Collectors who search through rolls are always on the lookout for these little differences. What about the claim that a 1980 penny could be worth hundreds of millions? This is where it's important to separate myth from reality. There is no documented sale of a 1980 penny anywhere near that amount. In fact, no Lincoln cent of any date has sold for anything approaching that kind of money. Those sensational claims often seen online are either misunderstandings, exaggerations, or marketing hooks to get viewers' attention. The real value comes from condition, rarity, and demand, not from unrealistic headline numbers. That said, the thrill of the hunt is very real, and the dream of finding a rare error or a perfect high-grade coin keeps collectors searching. When you think about the value of a coin, the first instinct is to focus on its rarity. But rarity for a 1980 penny doesn't come from low mintage numbers. Over 12 billion were struck across all mints, so they are not rare in the sense of being scarce. Instead, the true rarity lies in condition. Finding a 1980 penny in flawless mint state condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. These coins were mass-produced, struck quickly, and shipped out in bulk bags that allowed them to tumble and hit each other before ever reaching circulation. That process created tiny nicks and marks that collectors call bag marks. Each mark lowers the grade and therefore the value of the coin. A coin in mint state 67 or mint state 68 is one that somehow escaped all of that damage. It might have been set aside by a bank employee, a collector, or even a mint worker. Perhaps it came from an uncirculated mint set that was stored perfectly for decades. These are the coins that stand out under the grading service's microscopes. When the professional coin grading service or numismatic guarantee company gives a coin an MS67 red grade, it is certifying that the coin has nearly perfect luster, almost no visible marks, and an eye appeal that makes it stand out from millions of others. And because there are so few at that grade, the price skyrockets. One verified sale of a 1980 penny in MS67 plus red went for over $2,000. That's a huge leap from face value, and it's entirely based on condition. Proof coins from San Francisco are another story. They were never intended for circulation. These coins were struck multiple times on specially polished dies to create mirror-like fields and frosted details. The mintage was just over 3.5 million, which is small compared to circulation strikes, but still large in the proof coin world. Most proof 1980 pennies will be in high grade because they were sold to collectors in protective packaging. Their value depends heavily on the quality of the strike and whether they've retained their original brilliant surfaces. A perfect PR70 deep cameo example will bring a premium, though the market has a lot of supply, which keeps prices modest compared to some earlier proof issues. We also can't ignore the role of copper content in the story of the 1980 penny. These coins were struck in the last years before the big shift in composition. By the early 1980s, the price of copper had risen so much that the metal in a penny was worth more than 1 cent. In 1982, the mint switched to copper-plated zinc coins weighing 2.5 grams instead of 3.11 grams. Because of this, all pre-1982 copper cents, including the 1980 penny, have a melt value of around 2 to 3 cents depending on current copper prices. It's not legal to melt pennies for their metal content, but that intrinsic value still adds an interesting layer to the story. Collectors sometimes set aside jars of pre-1982 copper cents as a long-term bet on copper prices, even though the real collectible value comes from grade and rarity. It's a reminder that coins are not just money, they're also small discs of a commodity metal that has value in its own right. The weight of 3.11 grams, that heavier feel in the hand, the rich copper color, these are details that set a 1980 penny apart from the modern zinc versions we use today. Now, let's talk about market perception. The 1980 penny doesn't grab headlines like a 1909 SVDB or a 1955 double die. But for Lincoln cent collectors who build complete date and mintmark sets, the 1980 issue is essential. They want one in the best condition they can afford, which drives steady demand for top-graded examples. Over time, as more coins are pulled from circulation and stored away, or simply worn down, those pristine survivors become harder to find. This slow process is why a coin that was once worth just face value can gradually increase in price for high-end examples. Then there's the ever-present fascination with error coins. An off-center strike where part of the design is missing, a broad strike where the rim expands outward, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet can all bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The odds of finding one in change are incredibly small, but the stories of such finds keep people checking. Even small die cracks, cuds, and minor doubling can catch a collector's eye. These are not just mistakes. They're snapshots of the minting process that slip through quality control and into the world. In the online world, we often see exaggerated claims about coins being worth astronomical sums. A 1980 penny worth $581 million? That's simply not a reality in the numismatic market. No such sale has ever occurred, no auction house has ever listed such a coin, and no grading service has certified a piece of that magnitude. These claims often stem from misunderstandings, hoaxes, or creative storytelling aimed at generating clicks. While it's fun to imagine, the true market for these coins is grounded in collector demand, condition, and legitimate rarity. That doesn't mean you can't find a valuable coin in your pocket change. People do it every year. A near-perfect 1980 penny, a dramatic error, or a special variety can still make its finder hundreds or even thousands of dollars richer. But the real thrill for most collectors is the hunt itself, the careful search, the weighing of coins, the examination under magnification, the satisfaction of knowing you've spotted something others overlooked. The 1980 penny might seem ordinary, but it's part of an extraordinary hobby. Each coin tells a story, not just of when and where it was made, but of all the hands it's passed through, the history it's lived through, and the care or neglect it's received along the way. That's why even common coins like the 1980 Lincoln Memorial cent deserve a closer look. They may not all be worth millions, but they are worth our attention. When we talk about high-value 1980 pennies, one of the most important concepts to understand is grading. Grading is the process of evaluating a coin's condition on a standardized scale so that buyers and sellers know exactly what they're dealing with. The Sheldon scale, used by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, ranges from 1 to 70. A grade of 1 is a coin that's barely identifiable, worn nearly flat, while a grade of 70 is a flawless, perfect coin with no post-mint imperfections visible even under magnification. Most 1980 pennies that you'll find in circulation fall in the circulated grades, from good to extremely fine. These have obvious wear, flattened hair details on Lincoln, weaker steps on the Memorial, and a general loss of sharpness and luster. They're interesting as copper coins, but they're not rare. Uncirculated grades start at mint state 60 and go up to mint state 70. A mint state 60 coin is technically uncirculated, but may have lots of bagged marks, dull luster, or weak eye appeal. As you move up the scale, you're looking for strong, original luster, fewer marks, and sharper strike details. By mint state 65, the coin has a strong visual presence, bright, clean, and appealing. Mint state 67 and higher are the true top end for this date, and these are the coins that bring serious premiums because so few survive in that grade. Color is another factor that grading services consider, especially for copper coins. The three color designations are red, red-brown, and brown. A red coin has at least 95% of its original bright copper color. These are the most desirable because copper naturally tones to brown over time, and preserving that original fiery luster is difficult. A red-brown coin has between 5% and 95% original red color, with the rest showing shades of brown. Brown coins have less than 5% original red and are mostly toned. A 1980 penny in mint state 67 red is far rarer and more valuable than one in the same grade that's red-brown or brown. If you want to check your own 1980 pennies, start by looking at them under good lighting. Hold them at an angle and tilt them to see how the light moves across the surface. Original mint luster has a cartwheel effect. It spins across the coin as you rotate it. Check the high points of Lincoln's face, hair, and coat for signs of wear. Even slight flattening can drop the grade. Look for marks, scratches, or spots that might affect the grade. A coin with no wear, few marks, and full red color is worth closer examination. For those who think they might have a high-grade example, sending it to a grading service is often the next step. PCGS, NGC, and Annex all certify coins, placing them in protective holders with the grade clearly marked. This not only helps in determining value but also makes the coin easier to sell to serious collectors. Keep in mind that grading fees can add up, so it's usually only worth sending coins that you truly believe have the potential to grade high. The market for graded 1980 pennies is steady, and auction records show this clearly. While most coins sell for modest amounts, the very best examples break away from the pack. One certified MS67 Plus red example sold for over $2,000 at auction. That might not sound like millions, but it's a huge increase from a coin's face value. Proof coins from San Francisco and PR70 Deep Cameo also attract attention, though prices are usually in the low hundreds because of higher supply. The lesson here is that condition and certification drive the market. Beyond traditional grades, era coins can completely change the equation. Off-center strikes are a classic example. If a coin is struck off-center by 5%, it might be mildly interesting, but by 50% or more, where part of the design is missing and the blank planchet is visible, the value jumps significantly. A 1980 penny with a major off-center strike could sell for $100 or more depending on severity and eye appeal. Broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar and spreads outward, can also bring premiums. Clipped planchets, where a curved portion of the coin is missing due to a mechanical misfeed, are another collectible variety. Then there are die varieties. While the 1980 penny doesn't have any famous doubled dies like the 1955, minor doubling can still be found. This doubling might appear on the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the lettering on the reverse. Strong, clear doubling is more valuable than light or machine doubling, which is common but less collectible. Die cracks, die chips, and cuds, where a piece of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin, are also interesting finds that can be worth more than face value. For collectors building a complete Lincoln cent set, the 1980 penny is a must-have. They'll often seek out not just one coin, but examples from each mint in the highest grade they can find. This keeps demand steady for Philadelphia and Denver issues, even though billions were made. The San Francisco proof is usually obtained from a proof set, but perfect examples still bring competition. The coin's role in the transition era before the 1982 composition change also adds historical interest, especially to those who focus on copper cents. All of this brings us to the bigger picture of why people value coins like the 1980 penny. It's not just about the metal content, or even the immediate resale value. It's about connection to history, to the artistry of coin design, to the thrill of the hunt. Every time someone goes through a roll of pennies, they're participating in a tradition that goes back generations. They're looking for that one coin that stands out, that one error, that one perfect survivor. And while the odds of finding a coin worth hundreds or thousands are small, the possibility keeps the search alive. To really understand why the 1980 penny holds a place in the numismatic world, you have to step back and look at the bigger story of the Lincoln cent series. The Lincoln cent began in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent that had been in circulation since 1859. Victor David Brenner's design was groundbreaking at the time. For the first time, a real person's portrait, Abraham Lincoln, appeared on a circulating U.S. coin. The choice of Lincoln marked the centennial of his birth, and it instantly connected the coin to national history in a way no previous design had. The reverse of that original coin featured two wheat stalks framing the denomination, earning it the nickname, wheat cent, among collectors. Fast forward to 1959, when the reverse design was changed to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The new reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparo. This design brought a new layer of symbolism, Lincoln's statue could be seen, tiny but detailed, inside the memorial on the coin. This reverse remained in place for 50 years, making coins like the 1980 penny part of a long and familiar era in American coinage. By 1980, the Lincoln Memorial design had become an everyday part of American life. Billions of these coins passed through people's hands without a second thought. But for collectors, each year, each mint mark, and each slight change in production was worth noting. The 1980 issues came just 2 years before the famous composition change of 1982. This meant that the 1980 penny was one of the last heavy copper coins of its era. That detail alone makes it interesting to those who see the series as a timeline of U.S. economic and minting changes. The 1980s also marked a time of rising metal costs and evolving mint technology. Striking billions of coins efficiently required precision machinery and constant die replacement. Tiny differences in dies, changes in hubbing, or wear on the dies could create small varieties that sharp-eyed collectors still search for today. This is why roll searching for 1980 pennies is more than just nostalgia. It's a careful inspection for minute details that set one coin apart from another. In numismatic culture, the Lincoln cent serves as the gateway coin for countless collectors. It's affordable, accessible, and rich in history. The 1980 penny, being a modern copper issue, is often one of the first coins beginners set aside. Maybe they notice its heavier weight compared to newer pennies, or maybe they just enjoy keeping pre-1982 copper cents in a jar. That's how many lifelong collections start, with small discoveries that grow into a deeper appreciation for the series. For more experienced collectors, the 1980 penny is a chance to chase condition rarity. It's an exercise in patience and attention to detail, because high-grade examples are hard to come by. Collectors will search mint sets, dealer stock, and even original rolls in hopes of finding a coin with that perfect combination of sharp strike, brilliant luster, and flawless surfaces. This pursuit is about more than value. It's about the challenge of finding something exceptional in a sea of ordinary coins. The market perception of the 1980 penny reflects this layered interest. For the general public, it's just a cent. For copper hoarders, it's a piece of metal with a melt value that could be worth more in the future. For error hunters, it's a potential treasure chest of off-center strikes, doubled dies, and other anomalies. For high-grade collectors, it's a key date in terms of condition rarity that can add prestige to a registry set. This wide range of motivations keeps the coin relevant in the marketplace decades after it was struck. And then there's the cultural nostalgia. The 1980 penny is tied to an era before the internet, before smartphones, before debit cards became the norm. People used cash more often, and coins passed from hand to hand constantly. That gives these coins a kind of time capsule quality. Holding a 1980 penny can evoke memories of childhood allowances, vending machines, and the sound of coins rattling in pockets. For some, this emotional connection is just as powerful as the numismatic value. As we talk about modern perceptions, it's important to address the big exaggerated claims that circulate online. Stories about a 1980 penny worth $581 million spread quickly, often without context. These claims aren't based on real auction records. They're usually clickbait or misunderstandings. No coin dealer, grading service, or auction house has ever valued a 1980 penny anywhere near that figure. The real market is based on condition, rarity, and collector demand, which can still make certain examples worth hundreds or thousands, but not millions. The truth is more modest, but it's also more achievable for collectors. This grounded reality doesn't diminish the excitement of the hunt. If anything, it enhances it. Because when you know the real factors that create value, grade, mint mark, variety, and error type, you're equipped to actually find coins of genuine worth. That's where the 1980 penny shines, as an accessible piece of history with the potential to surprise you if you look closely enough. In the marketplace today, the 1980 penny occupies a unique position. It's common enough in average grades that anyone can find one, but rare enough in high grades that a small number of coins stand out and attract serious competition. To understand why, you need to look at actual auction results and grading service data. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC keep population reports, essentially databases showing how many coins of each date and mint mark have been certified at each grade. For the 1980 penny, the population is enormous in lower mint state grades. MS60 to MS64 coins number in the thousands. At MS65 red, the population thins considerably, and values start to rise. By the time you reach MS67 red, the population drops to just a few dozen examples. That scarcity at the top end is what drives auction results into the thousands of dollars for the finest coins. Consider one example. A 1980 Philadelphia cent graded MS67 Plus red by PCGS sold for over $2,000 at a major auction. It wasn't because the date is rare, but because so few coins survive with blazing red color, perfect surfaces, and strong strike. Even one tiny carbon spot or hairline could drop the grade, making perfect survivors elusive. Similarly, a 1980 D-cent graded MS67 red has reached over $1,500 at auction, again due to the extreme rarity in that grade. Proof coins tell a slightly different story. The 1980 S-proof cent, struck at the San Francisco Mint, was sold as part of annual proof sets. These coins were made with specially polished dies and planchets, resulting in sharp, mirror-like fields and frosted devices. While proof coins are more common in high grades, perfect PR70 deep cameo examples still attract premiums because collectors in the registry set competitions seek flawless pieces. A PR70 deep cameo 1980S has sold for several $100s. Most proofs, however, trade in the $5 to $20 range in PR69 deep cameo, making them affordable for collectors who want quality without chasing the absolute top grade. Error coins are another area where market value can surprise collectors. In 1980, just like in other years, mistakes happened at the mint. These mistakes, when dramatic enough, create coins that can be worth many times face value. A 1980 penny struck 50% off-center with a visible date and design can sell for $100 or more. Double strikes, where the coin is struck twice, creating overlapping images, are rarer and can bring even higher prices, especially if the second strike is off-center. Broad strikes, where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter, and clipped planchets, where part of the blank is missing, are also sought after. One fascinating variety from around this period involves small die breaks, sometimes called BIE errors, where a tiny crack develops between the letters B and E in Liberty, creating what looks like a tiny I. These are minor but fun errors that collectors will pay a premium for, especially if they are dramatic and clear. While they won't make a coin worth thousands, they add character and value beyond face. What's interesting is how all of these factors, high grades, errors, varieties, interact in the market. Collectors who are building registry sets will compete fiercely for top pop coins, pushing prices up for a small number of examples. Error collectors focus on dramatic mistakes, creating a separate market entirely. Copper hoarders simply set aside all pre-1982 coins, betting on the long-term value of copper. These overlapping interests keep demand for 1980 pennies strong, even though billions were made. The $581 million myth that circulates online is a product of misunderstanding this market. People see an auction result for $2,000 and assume that means all 1980 pennies are worth thousands. Then exaggerations spiral from there. In reality, most 1980 pennies are worth face value. A small percentage are worth a few dollars in high circulated grades or as common proofs. A tiny handful are worth hundreds or thousands because of exceptional condition or dramatic errors. No verified 1980 penny has ever sold for millions, let alone hundreds of millions. But that doesn't mean the hunt is any less exciting, because finding a coin worth $1,000 in pocket change is still a remarkable discovery. The modern marketplace for coins is also influenced by grading trends and demand cycles. When a high-grade 1980 penny appears at auction, it can trigger interest in similar coins. Collectors who see one sell for $2,000 may dig through their own collections, submit coins for grading, and add supply to the market. This can cause short-term price shifts. Over the long term, though, the pattern is clear. true condition rarities hold their value, while common grades remain stable. Another factor worth noting is how registry set collecting has pushed prices upward. PCGS and NGC maintain competitive registries where collectors can rank their sets based on the grades of their coins. A single coin in MS67 Plus Red can make a significant difference in a set's ranking, leading collectors to bid aggressively when one appears on the market. This competitive element has been a major driver for modern coin prices, including coins like the 1980 penny. In the broader context of Lincoln cents, the 1980 coin also benefits from being part of the late copper years. The 1970s and early 1980s issues are all popular for copper stacking, and collectors often assemble full runs of these dates in high grade. While dates like 1970's small date or 1972 double die get more attention, the 1980 holds its place as an important part of that era, especially in top condition. The lesson for collectors is simple: know the market, know the grading standards, and know what to look for. A 1980 penny in your pocket change is almost certainly worth a cent. A 1980 penny with blazing red luster, no marks, and perfect strike might be worth hundreds after grading. A dramatic mint error could push the value even higher. The thrill comes from spotting the difference. The 1980 penny's value discussion wouldn't be complete without addressing the copper melt factor. Every 1980 penny contains about 3.11 grams of 95% copper and 5% zinc. At the current market price of copper, that metal content is worth more than 1 cent, often hovering around 2 to 3 cents depending on copper prices. This is why copper stacking has become a small subculture in coin collecting. People deliberately sort through rolls of pennies, separating pre-1982 coins like the 1980 from modern zinc cents. It's important to note, however, that melting U.S. cents for their metal value is illegal under current law. The U.S. Mint issued a regulation in 2006 that prohibits the melting of cents and nickels, primarily to prevent large-scale metal loss from circulation. That hasn't stopped collectors from hoarding copper cents in the hope that if melting is ever legalized, they'll be able to profit. Whether or not that will happen is uncertain, but it adds another layer of interest to coins like the 1980 penny. While copper stacking is a long-term play, the more immediate question for most collectors is how to identify a valuable 1980 penny worth submitting for grading or selling. The first step is recognizing the difference between natural toning, original surfaces, and damage. Many coins lose value because they've been cleaned. Cleaning, especially with abrasives, chemicals, or polishing, removes the natural surface and luster, leaving hairline scratches or an unnatural shine. Professional graders can detect this immediately, and such coins are labeled as cleaned or improperly cleaned, dramatically lowering their value. For the 1980 penny, preserving originality is critical. A truly high-grade coin will have full red color, graded RD by services like PCGS and NGC, strong strike details, and no visible marks under magnification. Any spots, scratches, or dullness will lower the grade. Collectors searching rolls or old collections should use proper lighting and magnification to examine coins. Tilt the coin to see how the light moves across the surface. A natural cartwheel luster is a good sign. A dull, flat shine may indicate cleaning or wear. Another consideration is authenticity. While counterfeiting isn't a major problem for the 1980 penny, since most aren't worth enough to make it worthwhile, there are cases of altered coins, especially in the error coin market. A coin that appears off-center, doubled, or otherwise unusual should be examined carefully. Some altered coins are created by cutting, pressing, or otherwise damaging a coin outside the mint. Genuine mint errors have certain characteristics, such as proper metal flow lines, die wear patterns, and correct weight. This is where certification can help both sellers and buyers. If you suspect you have a high-value 1980 penny, whether due to grade, error, or variety, the safest way to confirm and maximize its value is to submit it to a reputable grading service. PCGS, NGC, and ANAX are the major players, each with decades of experience. A coin in a certified holder with a top grade or recognized error will always bring more confidence in the marketplace. Once certified, the question becomes how to sell. Selling a valuable 1980 penny can be done through several avenues, each with its pros and cons. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers are ideal for coins with strong value, such as top-graded examples or dramatic errors. They have access to a global network of buyers and can create competition that drives prices up. The downside is that auction houses take a commission, so the seller doesn't keep the full hammer price. Another route is to sell through online platforms like eBay or dedicated coin marketplaces. This can reach a wide audience, but it requires careful listing, strong photographs, and an understanding of the market. Buyers will want to see clear images of both sides, details of the grade or certification, and any interesting features. Coins and certified holders are far easier to sell this way because they remove questions of authenticity and condition. Coin shows and local dealers offer a more immediate but often lower-priced option. A dealer might buy outright, offering cash on the spot, but their offer will usually be below retail because they need room for profit. For someone looking for speed over maximum price, this can be a reasonable choice. For those wanting top dollar, auction or direct sale to another collector is often better. Market timing also plays a role. When copper prices are high, general interest in pre-1982 pennies tends to increase. When a big auction record is set for a 1980 penny in high grade, collector interest spikes temporarily. Keeping an eye on market trends can help you choose the right moment to sell. All of this circles back to the same principle: knowledge is the collector's greatest asset. The 1980 penny might not make you $581 million, but it can be a surprisingly valuable coin under the right circumstances. And beyond the dollar value, it's part of a century-long series that has introduced millions of people to the hobby. When diving into the details of the 1980 penny, one of the most exciting aspects for collectors is the search for varieties. Tiny differences between coins that arise from the way dies were made and used at the U.S. Mint. While the 1980 issue doesn't have a major double die like the famous 1955 or 1972 cent, it does have several recognized minor varieties that sharp-eyed collectors can look for. One such variety involves repunched mint marks, often referred to as RPMs. In 1980, mint marks were still punched into dies by hand rather than being part of the master hub. This meant that the position, orientation, and even the depth of the mint mark could vary slightly. Sometimes a mint mark was punched in slightly off position and then corrected, creating a doubled or shadowed look. For the 1980D, examples of RPMs have been catalogued and can command premiums from collectors who specialize in die varieties. Another area of interest is small die cracks and cuds. These occur when a die develops a break or chip, leaving a raised area of metal on the coin where there should normally be flat design. While minor die cracks are common and don't add huge value, dramatic die breaks, especially those that form shapes, letters, or striking features, can become collectible in their own right. A cut on a 1980 penny that covers part of the date or lettering will almost always attract attention, both for its uniqueness and for its story as a piece of minting history. Collectors also keep an eye out for doubled dies, even minor ones. A doubled die is created when the die itself receives two impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned. On a coin, this shows up as extra thickness or a shadow effect on letters or numbers. While no major 1980 doubled die has yet achieved fame like some earlier years, minor doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date has been reported. These are worth checking with a loupe, as even minor doubled dies can bring premiums if clearly visible and well documented. Error diagnostics are an essential skill for anyone hoping to profit from 1980 penny finds. For example, an off-center strike will have a distinctive look, part of the design will be missing, and there will be extra blank planchet space on one side. A genuine off-center strike will still show proper metal flow lines and a full rim on the opposite side. Fake errors, often created by cutting or squeezing coins, usually look unnatural and lack these features. Similarly, a broad strike error will expand the diameter of the coin because it was struck without the restraining collar. Genuine broad strikes will have smooth, stretched rims and still show sharp detail in the center. Counterfeit broad strikes often look uneven or have flattened devices from outside manipulation. collectors who specialize in errors use weight as another diagnostic tool. A 1980 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if struck on a normal copper planchet. If a coin weighs significantly less or more, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a foreign coin blank or a transitional composition. Wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable mistakes and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially if the coin shows a strong, complete date. The thrill of finding one of these rare varieties or errors is a big part of the market psychology around coins like the 1980 penny. Most collectors will never find a $1,000 example in circulation, but the possibility keeps the hunt alive. It's the same feeling that drives metal detectorists to spend hours scanning beaches or collectors to search through thousands of wheat pennies looking for a 1909 SVDB. Collector stories from the 1980 penny are full of moments like these. One well-known example is a collector who purchased a bag of mixed pennies from a small bank in the Midwest in the early 2000s. Sorting through them, they discovered an off-center 1980 penny with a 50% blank planchet showing. It was later certified by Annex and sold for several $100s. Another story comes from a dealer who, while examining a bulk lot of copper cents, spotted an unusually sharp 1980D with blazing luster. After grading, it came back MS67 red and sold for a strong premium at auction. These stories fuel the perception that treasures are still out there. They also influence market behavior. Every time a high-grade 1980 penny or dramatic error appears at auction, it renews interest in the date and prompts more searching. Prices can temporarily spike as collectors try to secure examples for their sets. Over time, the market settles back, but the long-term trend is one of steady interest for high-quality or unique coins. Psychologically, the 1980 penny is also an accessible target for newer collectors. Unlike chasing rare key dates like the 1909 SVDB or the 1914D, which require significant investment, the 1980 penny can be hunted in everyday change or purchased in bulk at minimal cost. This low barrier to entry means a much larger base of collectors participates, keeping demand high for standout coins. This blend of accessibility, variety potential, and copper appeal makes the 1980 penny a perfect example of how a common coin can still be a numismatic gem in the right context. The market for the 1980 penny, like all coins, moves in cycles. These cycles are shaped by a combination of collector enthusiasm, investor activity, and broader economic trends. The 1980 penny is not a rare key date, but it benefits from being part of the last years of copper cents, making it attractive both to collectors building sets and to investors holding physical copper. Market cycles can be subtle. In the years immediately after 1980, interest in that year's penny was limited. The coins were new, plentiful, and largely considered common. But as the decades passed, attrition began to work in favor of the survivors. Billions of coins were struck, but millions have since been melted for industrial scrap overseas, lost in circulation, or worn to the point of no longer being collectible. This gradual reduction in supply, especially of high-grade, original examples, creates long-term upward pressure on values. Investor demand enters the picture primarily through copper stacking. When copper prices rise, interest in pre-1982 pennies increases. The 1980 penny becomes part of a larger investment thesis: hoard the last copper cents as a tangible, inflation-resistant asset. While this kind of demand is not driven by numismatic rarity, it does impact market dynamics. At times of high copper prices, large quantities of coins are pulled from circulation, further thinning the available supply for collectors. Collector demand is different. It focuses on condition, varieties, and set completion. A collector building a date and mint set of Lincoln Memorial cents needs a 1980 Philadelphia, 1980D, and 1980S proof. Those who specialize in high-grade registry sets push demand for the finest certified coins. Collectors of varieties seek out RPMs, doubled dies, and dramatic die cracks. Each of these markets operates somewhat independently, but all contribute to the overall liquidity and interest in the date. The interplay between investor and collector demand creates interesting price patterns. For example, in periods when copper prices are high, More coins are hoarded in bulk, and the few that appear in high grades may sell for stronger premiums because competition increases. When copper prices stabilize, investor activity may slow, but dedicated collectors continue to seek quality examples, keeping prices for top grades relatively firm. Looking to the future, the outlook for the 1980 penny is steady with potential for gradual appreciation in certain segments. Common circulated examples will likely remain worth face value, perhaps a bit more if copper prices rise. Average mint state coins will stay affordable because the supply is large. The real growth potential lies in the extremes: top pop MS67 red or better coins, dramatic mint errors, and unusual varieties. These coins are condition rarities, and as more collectors participate in registry competition, demand for the best of the best will remain strong. Another factor that may shape the future market is generational turnover in collecting. The Lincoln Memorials series has been collected for decades, and as collections are passed down or sold, fresh material enters the market. Some high-grade coins will resurface, but so will demand from newer collectors who want to build their own sets. The 1980 penny's position as part of the late copper era ensures it will remain an important and desirable coin for those building complete runs. Technology is also changing the way collectors interact with coins. High-resolution photography, online marketplaces, and registry set platforms allow collectors to compare coins, track auction results, and compete globally. This transparency tends to support stronger prices for top coins, as more buyers can see and bid on them. It also raises standards. Collectors can study MS67 examples in detail, making them more discerning when examining raw coins. It's worth noting that while dramatic price spikes, like claims of $581 million valuations, are not realistic, steady appreciation is. A coin that sells for $1,500 today in MS67 red might be worth more in 10 or 20 years, not because of hype, but because the number of perfect coins doesn't increase. In fact, coins can be lost, damaged, or resubmitted for upgrades, meaning the population of the absolute finest examples can shrink over time. For the average collector, the future of the 1980 penny is not about chasing unrealistic jackpots but about understanding the real opportunities. Building a high-quality set, searching for varieties, and holding copper cents as a tangible store of value are all strategies that make sense in the long run. In essence, the 1980 penny's future mirrors that of many modern copper cents, common in low grades, scarce in top grades, and increasingly valued as part of a complete, well-preserved collection. The value of a 1980 penny can rise or fall dramatically based on its grade, and grading is both an art and a science. Understanding how grading works, and what graders look for, is essential for anyone who hopes to identify a valuable coin and present it to the market in the best possible way. Grading for copper coins like the 1980 penny starts with surface preservation. The Lincoln Memorial design shows contact marks most clearly on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, and the fields, the flat areas, in front of his face. Any bag marks, nicks, or scratches here can lower the grade. In uncirculated coins, graders look for clean, mark-free surfaces. Even a single distracting contact mark can drop the grade from a 67 to a 66 or lower. Next comes luster. A high-grade 1980 penny should have strong, original mint luster that moves across the surface in a cartwheel effect when the coin is tilted under light. Breaks in the luster often indicate handling, wear, or cleaning. A dull coin with weak luster will grade lower, even if it has few marks. Color designation is especially important for copper coins. Grading services classify copper coins as red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, based on the percentage of original red mint color remaining. A 1980 penny in full red can command a significant premium over the same coin in red-brown or brown. For example, an MS67 RD can sell for hundreds of dollars, while an MS67 RB might bring a fraction of that. Preserving red color requires careful storage from the moment the coin leaves the mint. Strike quality is another factor. The 1980 penny generally has a decent strike, but some examples may show softness on Lincoln's hair or on the memorial steps. A sharp strike with full detail is more desirable, especially for registry set collectors. Graders will note strike quality, and while a slightly weak strike may not prevent a high grade, it can influence a buyer's willingness to pay top dollar. Once you've identified a coin with potential, the next step is preservation. Proper handling is crucial. Always hold the coin by its edges, never touching the obverse or reverse surfaces. Oils and dirt from fingers can leave residues that damage the coin over time. If you're working with raw coins, use cotton gloves or handle them with clean, dry hands and extreme care. Storage is equally important. The best option for long-term preservation is a stable, inert environment. Acid-free flips, hard plastic holders, or certified slabs are all good choices. Avoid PVC flips, as the plastic can release chemicals over time that cause green corrosion on copper. Store coins in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and fluctuations in temperature or humidity. For coins with top potential, especially those you believe could grade MS67 or higher, submission to a third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC is almost always worthwhile. These services not only authenticate and grade your coin, but they also encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder that protects it and displays its grade and color designation. A certified 1980 penny is far easier to sell, especially in the upper grades, because buyers can trust the grade and authenticity. When preparing to submit, presentation matters. Don't attempt to clean or improve the coin yourself. Even light cleaning can ruin a coin's value. Leave any dust or debris in place, as graders expect coins to have minor handling marks from their time in the minting and distribution process. Submitting coins raw and unaltered is the safest way to maximize their potential grade. Photography is another underrated part of presenting a coin for sale. Whether selling directly to collectors or through auction, high-quality photos can make a significant difference in perceived value. Use good lighting, avoid harsh reflections, and show both obverse and reverse clearly. Close UPS of the date, mint mark, and areas of strong detail or interest, such as an error, help buyers see what makes the coin special. In the case of error coins, clear photography is even more critical. An off-center strike, die crack, or RPM should be shown in detail. Many buyers rely on images alone to decide on a purchase, especially in online marketplaces. Clear, accurate images reduce uncertainty and can spark competitive bidding. By mastering grading principles, preserving coins correctly, and presenting them effectively, you can position a 1980 penny for the best possible reception in the marketplace. The auction history of the 1980 penny is a fascinating lens through which to see how collector passion and market psychology can elevate even a common coin to unexpected heights. While the vast majority of 1980 pennies trade quietly for modest sums, standout examples, those with extreme grades, rare varieties, or dramatic errors, can ignite bidding wars that surprise even seasoned numismatists. One of the most notable cases occurred at a major heritage auction in the early 2000s. A 1980 Lincoln cent graded MS67 red by PCGS was consigned from a well-known Midwest collection. At the time, high-grade memorial cents had only just begun gaining traction in the registry set community. Collectors were still adjusting to the idea that a coin from the 1980s could be worth hundreds of dollars purely because of condition rarity. When this particular coin crossed the block, two registry competitors locked in on it. What was expected to sell for perhaps $150 ended up hammering for over $500 after spirited bidding. It set a record for the date at the time and signaled to the market that the 1980 penny was a legitimate player in the condition rarity arena. In another sale nearly a decade later, a spectacular 1980 penny graded MS67 Plus RD appeared. By then, registry competition had intensified, and the population of MS67 Plus coins remained extremely small. The Plus designation, indicating it was at the top of the MS67 range, but not quite an MS68, made it especially desirable. Bidders pushed the price past $1,000, demonstrating how small differences in grade and eye appeal can multiply value in this segment of the market. Proof coins from 1980 also have their moments. While the 1980s proof Lincoln cent was struck in large numbers for collectors, examples graded PR70 Deep Cameo (DCM) are scarce. In one online auction, a flawless PR70 DCM drew attention from both proof specialists and memorial scent enthusiasts. Competition was fierce, with bids jumping in the final seconds to a realized price exceeding $500, remarkable for a coin that originally sold as part of a proof set for just a few dollars. Era coins provide some of the most dramatic auction stories. In 2015, a 1980 penny struck off center by about 60% with a full, strong date appeared at a regional show auction. Era collectors recognized its rarity immediately. The combination of dramatic misalignment and full date visibility made it highly desirable. What might have been a curiosity to a casual collector became the centerpiece of the auction, ultimately selling for over $700 after heated bidding. Another memorable sale involved a broad strike 1980 D penny that had expanded far beyond its normal diameter, creating an unusually wide and thin planchet with full design elements visible. Certified by NX, it sold for over $400 at an online auction. Such coins attract not only era specialists but also collectors who enjoy owning visually striking, one-of-a-kind pieces. Bidding wars are driven by more than rarity. They are fueled by the emotional desire to win. In some cases, two collectors may each see a coin as the final piece needed to secure a registry award or complete a set. The competitive energy builds, and prices can soar well beyond what would be considered the coin's book value. This is part of what makes auctions unpredictable and exciting. In today's market, online auction platforms have amplified this effect. Coins that might once have sold quietly in a local auction now have a global audience. A 1980 penny with a dramatic die crack, certified in MS66RD, can be seen by hundreds of interested bidders worldwide. Even if only 2 or 3 are willing to fight for it, the visibility and competition can push the final price far higher than expected. These auction stories serve as both inspiration and caution. While they show the potential for strong returns, they also remind collectors that not every coin will command such prices. The key is understanding which coins have the qualities, grade, rarity, variety, or error that spark collector competition.